3 bone-chilling first date stories that haunt you at midnight never told until now. The moon hung full and heavy in the midnight sky, casting eerie shadows that danced across the deserted street. Sarah felt a shiver creep down her spine as she approached the old, creaking restaurant, the place where all the strange happenings had begun. She recalled the whispers of her friends, tales of doomed first dates steeped in madness and despair. They said the old building was cursed, home to secrets darker than the night itself. The hairs on the back of her neck stood tall, a warning that something was very wrong. She stepped inside, the door groaning in protest. The interior was dimly lit, flickering candles casting a golden glow on cracked, wooden tables. The air was thick with tension, a curious energy pulsing like a heartbeat. It wasn't just the eerie ambience. There were stories that went with this place, gory tales of broken hearts and flickering shadows. One date had ended in screams echoing through the haunted halls, while another slipped into madness before the night had even begun, her date disappearing without a trace. Every whispered word sent chills up Sarah's spine. In the back corner, a couple sat frozen in time, their eyes wide, appearing visibly startled. They were drawn into each other, yet something lay beneath their surface. Fear? Or was it something deeper? Sarah's heart raced, and a cold sweat broke out on her brow. She needed answers. What had they experienced? What had haunted them into silence? Just as she was about to approach them, the door swung open with a force that seemed unnatural, sending a rush of cold air rushing through. A tall figure slipped inside, cloaked in darkness. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the figure paused, scanning the room with piercing eyes. The tension in the room thickened, almost suffocating. What was their purpose? Who were they really? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Sarah's gut twisted. The door creaked closed behind the newcomer, sealing them all inside together. The couple in the corner glanced at each other nervously, their hands clenching around their drinks like lifelines. What dark tale were they keeping to themselves? An electric pulse of fear raced through the space, thick enough to slice through. And then, an unexpected scream pierced the eerie silence, sending another jolt of restless energy sparking through the room. Sarah turned to the source, her heart hammering against her rib cage. In that moment, as gasps filled the air, Sarah felt it, something terrible, lurking just beyond her reach. What if this was just the beginning of a night she couldn't escape? What could be waiting for her as she peeled back the layers of the unknown? The weight of their haunted past surrounded her. Could she brave the unfolding story and uncover the truth behind these chilling dates? There was no turning back now. As screams merged into frantic whispers, Sarah's heart raced. The newcomer, still shadowed from the flickering light, turned sharply toward the source of the commotion. For a moment, their piercing gaze locked with Sarah's, a chilling connection that sent a wave of dread crashing over her. What was that? She finally managed to whisper, her voice trembling, as she subtly scanned the room. The couple in the corner remained silent, their bodies rigid and eyes darting, desperately avoiding the chaos brewing around them. It was as if they were watching a horror film unfold. But this was no screen. It was real. A waitress stumbled from the kitchen, her apron stained with remnants of last night's rushed meal. "I am sorry," she gasped, her face pale. "Lo siento. I thought I saw something in the kitchen." There was an odd tremor in her voice, a hint of something far more sinister than just fear. The air suddenly felt charged, heavy with anticipation. "Just a rat, right?" Someone scoffed from the crowd, laughter straining against the tension. But the nervous chuckles stopped short. The kitchen door swung ajar again, creaking ominously, revealing nothing but shadows. Sarah's pulse quickened. She felt compelled to move, to investigate. But the more advance she took, the more insistent the feeling of dread became. Stay away, the shadowy figure finally spoke. Their voice, deep and haunting, sliced through the laughter. You don't understand what lurks here. Whispers erupted, panic spreading among patrons like wildfire. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, forcing herself to breathe. This was what she had come for, the stories, the mystery. But slowly, she realized she was no longer just a spectator in this macabre tale. She was part of it now. Look, the younger member of the couple finally found his voice, trembling hands pointing toward the flickering light bulb above. The lights, they're going out. Indeed, each flicker was more frantic than the last, plunging the restaurant deeper into darkness. The candles flickered violently, casting wild shadows that writhed along the walls. I have to get out of here, Sarah thought, but as she turned toward the door, it loomed like a portal to hell, tempting yet terrifying. A sense of urgency pushed her forward. The heavy feeling in her gut grew, screaming that she wouldn't find answers anywhere but here. Just as she was about to bolt, a chilling voice echoed through the restaurant, unmistakably clear. You must listen to me. The figure took a step closer, now illuminated by the dying candlelight. And then, gradually, they lifted their head, revealing a face twisted with scars, a haunting glare that chilled Sarah to the bone. The room hushed as all eyes settled on this apparition. There was a collective intake of breath from the diners, each of them caught in a spell of unknown fear. Many have come before, seeking love or just a good night. They never left. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. She had to know what came next, but her mind spun with 1,000 questions. Who were they? What happened to those who had vanished? And most pressing, would Sarah become one of their stories? The figure extended a hand, beckoning slowly as the candles flickered into their last breaths. Come closer. This time you learn the truth. Just as Sarah felt herself moving forward, a loud crash rang out, the front door blasting open once more. A figure from the outside called into the darkness. Get out. You have to get out now. But the moment had come, reality colliding with terror. Were they saving her, or leading her to her doom? The last candle flickered, and darkness enveloped the room, leaving Sarah suspended in the unknown, unable to choose a path or escape. What awaited her as the shadows drew near? Would fear dictate her choice, or would curiosity lead her to the answers she craved? The darkness settled around Sarah, thick and oppressive. She felt the weight of unseen eyes boring into her as panic swirled in the air. The shadowy figure stood undeterred, a ghostly silhouette against the dimming lights. The words echoed in her mind, "You have to get out now." The urgency of that warning clawed at her insides. She turned toward the door, but the figure's hand remained outstretched, beckoning her forward. The choice was agonizing. A wave of icy dread washed over her as the reality of the moment set in. Would she face the truth, or run toward what could very well be a trap? Get out now, Sarah! The shout was laced with desperation. It was the newcomer from outside, a figure shadowed against the restaurant's once warm glow. The patrons remained still, paralyzed by fear, while the creeping shadows bent under the burden of the unknown. Who are you? Sarah shouted, though her voice trembled, barely echoing over the rising storm of chaos. Many have sought the truth, little one, the scarred figure responded, voice low and haunting. But few understand that knowledge can be more perilous than ignorance. The air shifted. It crackled with energy as if the room itself was holding its breath. Time seemed suspended, every heartbeat echoing louder in her ears. Without warning, the lights went out completely. An engulfing pitch black surrounded her, and Sarah stumbled back, her heart pounding. For a moment, she was adrift in darkness, overwhelmed by the chaos of both her surroundings and her mind. But then, she felt something, a gentle tug, almost as if the shadows themselves were trying to pull her toward the figure. Don't listen to it, the newcomer screamed, his voice a desperate plea. You don't understand what it wants. Breathless, Sarah's instincts screamed at her to move, to flee, but her legs felt anchored in place. like she was trapped in a nightmare where every option was a dead end. The shadows shifted, swirling around her feet. The figure edged closer, face still obscured. What do you fear more, the unknown or the truth it hides? In that moment, Sarah felt a piercing chill creep over her skin. A memory flickered in her mind, a story she had heard as a child about a cursed place where the spirits of the lost lingered. Panic gripped her heart. This was it. She was stepping right into her childhood fears materialized. Suddenly, a high-pitched wail sliced through the silence. Came from the kitchen, loud and spine-chilling. Sarah turned, instinctively moving toward the sound, pulled by a mix of horror and curiosity. What was behind those walls? With each step, she fought against the urge to turn back, the weight of the moment dragging her down. The din of the wailing intensified, drowning out her thoughts and fueling her urgency. Her lungs burned, and her skin prickled like 1,000 needles were pressing against her. How could she keep going toward something less tangible than fear itself? Just as she reached the threshold of the kitchen door, the scarred figure's hand shot out again, firm yet eerie. Don't go in there. You want to come back. But the sound, that haunting wail, it was a thread she felt compelled to grasp. Help me, a voice suddenly cried, echoing from the shadows within. Sarah, the newcomer shouted, desperation flooding his tone. Please don't do it. Everything inside her screamed for her to turn around and run, but she felt tethered to the kitchen like it was calling her name. With trembling hands, she gripped the doorframe, caught between the shadowy figure's warning and the piercing cry that clawed at her very soul. What was she meant to discover, and at what cost? The moment hung thick in the air, suffocating as the shadows closed in. Would the truth illuminate her path, or would the darkness consume her forever? She stood on the edge of a decision, one that could either lead her home or seal her fate. As the wailing crescendoed, the question loomed. Pulsing with dread, would Sarah uncover the horrific reality hiding in the kitchen? Or would she become just another name lost to the legends of the night? The kitchen door creaked ominously as Sarah pushed it. It swung open into a space drenched in shadows and thick with an unnatural chill. The wailing grew louder, wrapping around her like a cold embrace. It beckoned her deeper, weaving into her thoughts, taunting her with a mix of fear and fascination. Her heart raced, a wild drum echoing against the unease lurking in the shadows. Sarah, wait! The newcomer's voice pierced the chaotic sounds, but she couldn't turn back. She had to know. As she stepped across the threshold, the air shifted dramatically. The familiar restaurant scent of grilled meats and fresh bread was replaced by something acrid and stale. A flickering fluorescent light overhead struggled to illuminate the chaos. And then she saw it. In the corner of the kitchen, the chaos emerged, a figure slumped against the wall. The sight sent a jolt of electricity through Sarah. It was a woman, her clothes torn, skin bruised and pale. Help me, she gasped again, her voice trembling like a whisper carried on the wind. Who did this to you? Sarah could barely manage to ask, her mind racing with possibilities. The woman's eyes were wide, reflecting a terror that echoed Sarah's own. Run! The woman pleaded, swallowing hard as if the word itself was a struggle. They're coming back. They'll take you too. At that moment, the kitchen filled with an echoing laughter, dark, chilling, and unbearable. It was a sound that made Sarah instinctively step back, but the shadows thickened, swirling around her, pulling her closer to the woman, whose expression twisted into a mask of horror. Get away from her, barked the scarred figure, now looming in the doorway, backlit by the feeble light. Sarah, you must listen. The kitchen grew colder as shadows elongated, reaching towards Sarah like fingers grasping at her very soul. The woman's eyes widened further in a silent scream, a warning too profound for words. Sarah, you don't realize what is happening here. The newcomer shouted again, voice breaking as he strained to reach her through the billowing darkness. She is not who you think. Stop. Sarah couldn't fight it anymore. She needed clarity amid the confusion, desperately searching for the truth. What do you mean? Sacrifice. The word escaped the woman's lips like smoke. They offer one in return for freedom, Suddenly, the laughter erupted again, this time intensifying, growing louder and more menacing. A faint light flickered in the distance, barely cutting through the enveloping void. Sarah's heart pounded against her ribcage, her instincts battling against the desire to approach the woman. "Get out now." The newcomer's voice broke through the cacophony, electrifying the air with his urgency. But Sarah felt anchored, the shadows wrapping tighter, a heavy cloak that stifled her resolve. "You wanted to help. I need to know what's happening." The woman's mouth opened, but a loud crash interrupted them. A pot had fallen to the ground, echoing like thunder in the eerie stillness. A cold gust rushed through the kitchen, extinguishing the frail light, plunging them into deeper darkness. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The unseen presence was near, looming just beyond reach, and she realized she could be running out of time. Time to choose. Face the terror of the truth, or flee into the night, leaving everything she might uncover behind. The darkness pulsated with anticipation as Sarah made a decision. But just as she prepared to act, a sharp whisper threaded through the shadows, filled with promise and peril. "Join us, Sarah. The truth sets you free." A chill ran down her spine. The figure's hand still beckoned, urging her onward into the unknown. The thread of her fate was fraying, and just like that, the weight of her decision pressed down on her chest. Would she succumb to the seductive lure of the darkness, or would she seize the chance to escape? The question echoed in her mind as she stood frozen, caught in the grip of heart-stopping suspense. The laughter morphed into a cacophony of mocking whispers. Shadows danced in the corners of Sarah's vision, twisting and curling with a life of their own. She turned to the woman, eyes wide with fear. "Who are they? What are you?" "Not what. Who?" The woman's voice strained against the oppressive air, urgency threading through her tone. "They thrive on fear, feeding on the lost souls like me." Just as the intensity of her warning surged, the flickering light above sputtered violently, casting grotesque silhouettes across the walls. A chilling breeze seeped in from nowhere, lifting hair on Sarah's arms. It felt as if the air itself was alive, threatening to suffocate her, pulling her deeper into the gloom. "Get away!" The newcomer shouted a final time, his silhouette barely visible but his frustration palpable. "They want to twist your mind, make you part of them." Sarah's heart raced like an overwhelmed machine. She felt the weight of truth and lies wrapped around her, twisting like a vicious set of chains. She took a step back, struggling to shake the cold grip of confusion. "Sarah." The woman's pleading gaze turned desperate. "You must believe me. There's still time. You don't have to." Before she could finish, the sound of heavy footsteps thudded from the hallway beyond the kitchen. Panic clawed at Sarah's throat. "They're coming." "Oh God!" The woman trembled against the wall. "They sense you. You have to choose now." With her instincts screaming at her, Sarah bolted toward the exit. But the shadows recoiled, forming a barrier just as a flicker revealed the true horror lurking behind the newcomer. It was a figure, tall and menacing, clad in tattered black, its face obscured by darkness yet radiating malevolence. "Sarah." The newcomer reached for her, desperation in his voice. "You don't know what you're getting into." In that moment, a violent gust swept through the kitchen, extinguishing the erratic overhead light and plunging them into pitch black. The only sound was the frantic pounding of Sarah's heart. "Trust me," the newcomer shouted, breaking the silence with a last-ditch plea. "I can help you escape, but you must let go of the truth." "Let go?" A surge of defiance coursed through Sarah. "You think I'll just run?" I want to abandon her. But before she could act, a soft, chilling voice slithered through the darkness. "You can't save her, Sarah. She's already ours." The woman's face was now shrouded in darkness, her eyes glinting with a light that almost looked hungry. "Sarah, please, run. You don't understand what's at stake." The clash of panic and determination filled Sarah. The feelings heaved within her like trapped spirits fighting for a chance to escape. "What are you hiding?" she demanded, voice steadier than she felt. Suddenly, the air shifted. The warmth of the shadows melted away, and Sarah felt the emptiness gnawing at her insides. The newcomer cried out, but his voice was cut off entirely, leaving her alone in the oppressive silence. In that moment, a sharp, crystalline fear stabbed through her, as she found herself staring directly into the figure's obscured face. It opened its mouth and the shadows writhed in response, the laughter now an echo reverberating in the dark. Something cold brushed against Sarah's cheek, and a voice materialized, softer yet sinister. "You're part of this now, Sarah. You have to make a choice." Sarah's mind churned frantically. To run, to fight, to confront whatever lay dormant in the shadows? She stepped back, heart thundering like a war drum, and felt a cold, intangible force dragging her toward the darkness. The question hung heavily in the air, as oppressive as the night itself. Could she accept the truth, or would she remain a prisoner of fear? And just like that, the shadows reached out, tipping the scales of her destiny as she stood on the precipice of an unspeakable choice. With a jolt, Sarah found herself pulled back into a flood of light. It was blinding, washing over her with a warmth that felt foreign against the freezing grip of dread. She blinked, trying to comprehend her surroundings. Her heartbeat hammered in her ears, drowning out the muffled whispers. The shadows melted away, replaced by the bright, sterile walls of what looked like a hospital room. A rhythmic beeping filled the air, disorienting her senses. "Sarah?" A worried voice cut through the confusion. A doctor in a white coat stood over her, his brow furrowed with concern. "Can you hear me?" She nodded hesitantly, still grasping the remnants of the dark world from moments ago. "What happened?" The woman, the shadows, her voice was shaky, the chill now creeping into her bones. "Easy now. You're safe. You had a panic attack," the doctor said gently, as if coaxing a skittish animal. His presence, although comforting, did little to ease the haunting images that danced in her mind. Was it just a nightmare? Or had she truly escaped that dark horror? "Where is she?" Sarah's voice was firm, almost desperate. The woman, had it all been a figment of her imagination? "Who?" The doctor looked puzzled, flipping through a chart. "You were alone when we found you. No one else was present." At that moment, a chilling realization washed over her, blanketing her heart in dread. What if the shadows had followed her? What if the woman had been real, and the darkness was just waiting for an opportunity to reclaim her? There was a woman. She warned me. They want to take me. Sarah struggled against the sheets, fighting the confusion wrapping around her like a fog. She needed to escape this room, this reality. Her instincts screamed at her she'd seen the truth. "Sarah, you need to calm down," the doctor urged, his voice steady but just as anxious. "The medication might still be affecting you. Let us just take a few deep breaths." But her wants were irrelevant. Panic coursed through her as she fought against the restraints of her mind. The laughter echoed again, no longer a distant memory but a vivid reminder of the very presence that threatened to consume her. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and in strolled the newcomer from before. He looked as out of place in this clinical environment as a moth in daylight. The moment he met her gaze, something shifted. The shadows rippled through her memory, bringing quarters of fear alongside a flicker of familiarity. "Sarah." His voice was urgent, a lifeline tossed in the swirling chaos of her thoughts. "You're stronger than you think. You need to wake up. Wake up." The word lodged in her throat as she wrangled with the layers of reality closing in around her. "Are you real? Or am I still trapped? Listen to me." His eyes bore into hers, the intensity commanding her attention, pulling against the tide of fear that threatened to drown her. "What you saw was the truth. We don't have much time. They will be coming for you." "What do you mean?" She struggled to piece the fragments together, each breath heavy with the weight of her fears. "Who will come? The woman? The shadows?" "The darkness isn't done with you, Sarah," he urged. "You need to remember who you are and claim your power. Don't let them take you again." Before Sarah could respond, the doctor stepped forward, concern etched on his face. "You shouldn't be talking to her. Simply the medication." "No," Sarah screamed, her voice slicing through the tension. "I'm not crazy." The declaration reverberated in the stillness, a defiant call against the overwhelming veil of uncertainty. But outside the room, the air shifted, and the lights flickered ominously. The shadows danced again, whispering her name. They were alive, lurking just outside the threshold, hungry for her fear. The newcomer gripped the edge of her bed. You must fight, Sarah. They're closer than you think. You have to choose where to direct your power. Power? What power? She breathed in confusion, barely able to process the situation. But then the realization dawned. A choice lay before her, hovering perilously between sanity and submission, and as the shadows called her name, she understood that the real battle was yet to come, between herself and the horror that sought to consume her whole. But could she really confront the darkness? Could she harness whatever light remained in her? And as the air thickened with tension, Sarah braced herself. She knew she had to make a choice, but would she be strong enough to defy it? A sudden crash echoed through the sterile room, the sound jarring Sarah from her spiraling thoughts. The doctor flinched, and the shadows flickered, twisting and swirling in response to the commotion outside. She caught a glimpse of the newcomer's face, determination mixed with a palpable fear. What was that? Sarah demanded, panic snaking its way back into her chest. They're here, he replied, his voice tense, his eyes darting toward the door. We need to move now. The doctor raised his hands as if to calm her, but the urgency in the air suffocated him. We can't go anywhere, Sarah. You need to stay put. This is a hospital. Hospital? She scoffed, the word bitter on her tongue. This is a prison. They want to keep me here. Can't you see? She could feel the shadows shifting, creeping closer, their whispers now louder, overwhelming her senses. But she also felt a deep stirring within her, a flicker of something long buried, something powerful. Your heart is stronger than the fear they bring, the newcomer said, his voice wrapping around her like a protective barrier. Trust it, Sarah. Trust yourself. The doctor stepped back, alarmed by the raw intensity in her eyes. You need to calm down. No. She tore the four from her arm, cringing at the sharp pain. I want to be a prisoner to this. Her adrenaline surged as she swung her legs over the side of the bed, determined and unsteady. Good. Keep going. The newcomer encouraged, stepping closer, eyes fierce with purpose. You can break free. Hesitation flickered in Sarah's mind. What if this was all an illusion? What if the darkness had twisted the truth? She had to trust her instincts. They had led her to this very moment. The lights flickered again, but she clenched her fists. I want to let them win. I want to be taken. The shadows surged at the doorway, a dark wall of noise and malevolence. They lurked, hungry for her despair, and a shiver raced down her spine as they whispered her name in haunting unison. She rounded on the newcomer, heart racing. What do I do? Fight, he shouted, urgency flooding his voice. You have power within you. Draw it from your fear. Use it against them. Taking a deep breath, Sarah closed her eyes, focusing on her fear, twisting the strength that came with it. The shadows were a part of her. She wouldn't let them consume her. Not again. The air around her crackled with newfound energy. It felt warm, swelling within her chest, pushing back against the cold dread. The oppressive whispers shifted, pausing as though sensing her change. Open your eyes, the newcomer urged. When she did, the shadows recoiled, hues of darkness pulling back, morphed by the very light arising from within her. It's not power, she whispered, feeling the swell of energy course through her. It's belief. Suddenly, the door burst open, and a figure stepped inside. A chill cascaded through Sarah. It was the woman from her visions, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly fire. She smiled, an expression fraught with sinister promise, sending a wave of dread crashing over Sarah. I am here to take you back, the woman said, and her voice dripped with malice. You can't escape what you truly are. Fear tightened around Sarah's heart, but the energy within her pulsed defiantly. I'm not going anywhere with you, she stated, surprised by her own steadiness. Do you think you can resist me? The woman taunted, shadows thickening around her as the demons seemed to lull momentarily, waiting for her command. In that instant, Sarah realized something fundamental. This was not just a conflict of realms. It was a battle of wills. "You don't know me," she screamed, channeling her strength, feeling the power surge and pulse like a heartbeat. Before Sarah could unleash it, the newcomer stepped beside her, confusion mixing with hope in his gaze. "Now! Do it now!" But the woman's figure twisted, shifting deceptively like the shadows she commanded. "You have made a grave mistake, child." And in that pivotal moment, the dark laughter filled the air, fierce and mocking. As Sarah prepared to unleash her newfound light, a thought struck her. What if the true battle was not just against this woman, but against what lay within her own soul? As the darkness surged, consuming the room, Sarah braced herself. Could she rise above the shadows, or would the woman pull her into her eternal night? And in the chaos, she realized she had just begun to fight, and the real challenge had yet to reveal its face. What would it cost her to truly embrace her power? The air was thick with tension, vibrating with the electric energy Sarah had summoned. Shadows twisted and writhed, sensing the shift, but she stood firm, her heart a steady drumbeat in her chest. If the woman had come to take her back, Sarah would fight with everything she had. The newcomer leaned closer, his eyes wide with understanding. "Channel it, Sarah. Don't let them whisper doubts into your mind. Push them back." As the woman's laughter echoed, Sarah's resolve solidified. She focused on her belief, a quiet, palpable force building beneath the chaos. "I won't be what you expect," she said, her voice resonating with an inner power. "I will not go back to the darkness." With a forceful determination, she thrust her hands forward, and a pulse of light exploded from her core. It was warm and bright, illuminating the shadows curling toward her. The blast struck the woman, momentarily halting her advance as she staggered back, eyes narrowing with surprise. For the first time, doubt flickered across her face. "Yes, keep going," the newcomer shouted, his voice breaking through the din of shadows. But the woman wasn't finished. With a flick of her wrist, the dark mass surged forward, angry tendrils seeking to engulf Sarah in an avalanche of despair. Each whisper became distinct, clawing at her mind. They hurled accusations, dredging up her past failures, her fears, and her deepest insecurities. "You can't win, Sarah. You're nothing without us." The darkness was suffocating, wrapping around her throat like a vice. Panic surged, but she refused to succumb. Just as she felt herself faltering, a flicker of memory ignited a vision of her mother's embrace, warm and safe, filled with love and belief in her strength. That belief became her anchor. "No," she screamed, the cry ringing out like a clarion call. "I am more than this pain. I choose to embrace my power." With that, the light radiating from her heightened. It burst forth with renewed vigor, driving into the shadows, scattering them like brittle leaves in a storm. She felt the warmth spreading through her limbs, and, fueled by that flame, she focused her energy like never before. The woman choked on her words, dissatisfaction morphing into fury. "You're a fool to think you can defy me," she spat, and with a flick of her fingers, she intensified her assault. The room trembled, flickering lights trying to keep up with the chaos. Suddenly, the shadows coalesced and lunged, wild and raging. Sarah felt the surge of energy threatening to be snuffed out. Fear clawed at her mind, and for a brief moment, she hesitated. But then she recalled the comforting faces from her past, the love and determination that lit their eyes when they believed in her. "No, I am my own," she shouted, the declaration echoing in the cavernous space. She intertwined her emotions, her memories, and, with each breath, she wove them into a shield, a brilliant barrier of light surrounding her. The ensuing clash was deafening. Light met shadow in an explosion of color. The room around them had transformed into a whirlwind of energy, bright versus dark, hope against despair. As the screams of the shadows echoed, the darkness began to dissipate. Sarah pushed forward, gaining momentum, her determination igniting the energy within the room. She felt powerful, indomitable, a force of nature. "Stop!" the woman shrieked, now terrified, her authority waning as the light engulfed her. But as the last shadows evaporated, a new presence emerged. A chilling chill ran down Sarah's spine. The air shifted, heavy with a different kind of darkness, whispering secrets that sent shivers through her. Something far more sinister was looming beyond the chaos, something that had been watching all along. As Sarah turned to face this new shadow, the room began to warp around her, the boundaries between reality and nightmare blurring, pulling her deeper into the unknown. What awaited her there? She could feel it stirring, a promise of revelations that could either shatter her or set her free. Could she survive the unraveling, or would the secrets entwined with her powers consume her whole? With every breath, the darkness thickened, swirling around Sarah like a predator circling its prey. She could feel it tugging at her shirt, pulling her into its depths. It whispered tales of despair, weaving through her mind like smoke. "You're unworthy, you'll never escape, this is your fate." But Sarah had come too far to give in now. The light still glowed within her, flickering but fierce, a heartbeat in a storm. She raised her chin, refusing to allow the whispering shadows to shatter her resolve. Before her, the new shadow shifted, rippling with an energy that felt sharper than barbed wire. It was hungry and ancient, and it sought her. "You think you can withstand this?" it hissed, a voice drenched in malice. It oozed around her, blending with the echoes of her fears. "You will never uncover the truth. You're a mere pawn, a flicker destined to extinguish." Sarah's heart raced, yet she found herself standing, no longer trembling. "You don't know me," she shouted, channeling every ounce of her strength into her words. "You have no power here." With that, the air trembled as she focused. The light surged, pulsing rhythmically as it intertwined with her fear, transforming it into fuel. She thrust her hands forward again. This time, the energy rained down like a brilliant sun breaking the dawn, shimmering shapes forming around her, shapes of hope and resilience. The shadows writhed and screamed, recoiling from the radiant blaze. In this moment, Sarah caught sight of something lurking at the edges, an unearthly figure shrouded in an even deeper darkness, a silhouette against the blinding light. Its eyes glowed, two icy blue orbs burning with a cold, inescapable focus. The entity grasped the fears that laced through the air, tightening its grip on the chaos. "You are blind," it said, its tone malevolent and smooth as silk. "You do not grasp the full extent of what I am. I am your history, your regret, your truth." Suddenly, she was yanked backward, a force pulling her away from the light she'd just summoned. Sarah's heart pounded, her lungs burning with the intensity of it all. The room around her twisted again, distorting her vision, slicing through her memories to reveal deep-seated secrets she had never dared to confront. Faces of those she loved loomed, contorted in pain, disappointment shadowing their features. "Look closely, Sarah," the entity urged, its voice becoming a hypnotic lull. "What have you truly sacrificed to be free?" The images flooded her mind, betrayals, losses. A knot tightened in her chest, choking her with every breath. "Stop!" she cried out, desperate to break the grip of that darkness. Yet it only pulled tighter, the memories fueling its power. "Face it," the figure whispered, an icy touch creeping beneath her skin. "You cannot run from the truth for long. Admit that you've left them behind." Anguish threatened to engulf her just as the shadows attempted to choke off her light. They were back, the entities clawing at her resolve, but she fought the grip of despair. "I won't be afraid," she shouted fiercely, gathering whatever light remained in her. She had to chase the darkness away, she had to find the truth buried within. In a flash of clarity, the memories transformed. Instead of grief, she saw moments of strength, of laughter, of hope. The faces that haunted her shifted, filled with encouragement and warmth. "I am more than my past. I am the sum of my choices, both good and bad," she yelled, pushing against the shadows with the force of her declaration. In that decisive moment, the boundaries of her reality twisted one last time, a kaleidoscope of possibility crashing down around her. The shadows screeched, pulling away, retreating and writhing in the face of her defiance. But the entity lingered, its gaze chilling her to the bone. An unsettling sound echoed, a sinister chuckle entwined with a promise. You cannot escape forever. I will find you again. And when I do, your truth will be your undoing. As it faded, the shadows collapsed into silence, but Sarah knew something far more profound now lurked just out of sight, waiting for her to unravel once more. Standing on the brink of a revelation, she gasped. What truths were yet to uncover? What choices would define her next encounter with the darkness? The shadows may have receded for now, but the echo of their promise loomed ominously in her heart. What awaited her in the next clash, the truth or the very essence of her undoing? The room steadied, still alive with the traces of tumultuous shadows, but Sarah felt different now. The pulse of light within her continued to glow, a beacon rising from the ashes of fear. She looked around, realizing the newcomer had disappeared, swallowed by the chaos. For a moment, the absence sunk into her chest, making her feel heavy. Who would guide her now? But she wasn't alone. The phantom of loss was replaced with purpose. Sarah felt the faint warmth radiating from within, an ember ignited by faith in herself, in her strength. She took a deep breath, needing to clarify her path ahead and breathe out any lingering dread. With resolve, she pushed toward the door, determined to confront reality outside these walls. As she stepped through the threshold, bright hospital lights greeted her, illuminating the sterile hallway. But something was different now. The shadows had receded, replaced with clarity. Her heart still raced, but fear had transformed into courage. Sarah. A voice jolted her from her thoughts. It was the doctor rushing toward her. You need to come back. His eyes were filled with urgency and concern. I'm fine, she insisted, her voice steady. Defiance echoed in her tone. You can't just walk out, he said, bewildered. You need care. You can't continue like this. Continued care kept me shackled to fear. She shot back, stepping into a sense of authenticity she hadn't even realized she craved. But as she moved past him toward the exit, a chill trickled down her spine. She felt it, the darkness still out there, waiting silently beyond the light. It reminded her that even though she had faced many fears, the shadows were persistent, waiting for the moment she faltered. And you, a small voice echoed from behind. It was the newcomer, appearing suddenly, just outside the exit. You made it. I knew you could. His eyes shimmered with pride and relief. Now what? She asked, urgency evident in her tone. You warned me, but I still feel them lurking. They'll come back. They will, he acknowledged, stepping closer. But this time you hold the light. You're not the scared girl lost in the darkness anymore, you're fierce. And you know your power. So I'll just fight them? Again? Even if I lose? The weight of her vulnerability slipped through. What if I can't stand it again? You won't be alone anymore, he replied softly, casting a glance toward the threshold. Making choices is never easy, especially when they define what we become. But together, we'll face whatever fear decides to take shape. Sarah looked up at him, the tension in her chest easing with each passing moment. Together. I like the sound of that, she said, letting hope blossom where loss had taken root. As they stepped into the parking lot, the full moon above glowed in liquid silver, wrapping everything in a soft light. The air felt new and crisp, freeing. The way back wasn't without its hurdles. But for the first time, Sarah realized she could look to the past, embracing her truth instead of being buried beneath it. There's going to be more, she murmured, glancing at the stars. More shadows, more truths. There will, he agreed, his voice steady and reassuring. But you're not just Sarah anymore. You're a force, and you'll be ready. She took a breath, filled with the belief he reflected in his eyes. Maybe the journey ahead was dotted with battles, but also blooming with potential. No matter how many shadows came creeping back, she would face them head-on, armed not just with light but with knowledge and hope. As they walked away from the haunted restaurant, laughter bubbling forth from the darkened memories, Sarah glanced back one last time, a small smile on her lips. This isn't the end, just the beginning. And with renewed strength and unshakable resolve, she stepped into the unknown, ready to transform every shadow into a spark of light. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on the next thrilling installment. Hit that red button and stay connected. Smash that like button now to keep this channel alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. About Sarah's journey, this is where you matter. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling conclusion. Let us spread the light.